Good morning and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. So last night we did the Creed review, the Creed 3 review, so if you want to check that out, it's the episode directly below this one. Creed is really, really good. Creed 3. So if you haven't seen it yet, which granted, it's Thursday, so it technically comes out today. They just had some advanced screenings at AMC yesterday that I took advantage of. If you've not seen it yet, definitely go see it in the theater. And I think that having done that review now, the way we did, we went back to the old methodology, where we did, we went and gave our thoughts. Well, it used to be Peter and I, but now it's me, because he's busy. But I went and did a little pre-movie thought thing where I sat down and was like, well, here are my expectations going into the movie, here's how I feel about the franchise as a whole, that kind of thing. And what I'm expecting out of the movie, and then after the movie gave my spoiler-free thoughts and then spoiler-filled thoughts. So I think we're gonna go back to doing that for these movies, because all the pre-thoughts I can just bang out because they're 10 to 15 minutes. I can bang out 4 in an hour and have them just ready, and then just bank them and then clip them on after I record the episode. It's not that difficult to do. I have a headache today. But yeah, so Creed 3 is now out in the theaters, so check that out. And like the calendar says, if you go to multipleworldproductions.com/calendar, you can see it. The calendar for March does reflect that today we'll be doing Operation Fortune. That is going to be updated. We're going to be doing that tomorrow instead. Operation Fortune, Rouge de Guerre. Or whatever it is. However you pronounce that. That'll be tomorrow instead of today, because I have Josie and I are recording the new episode of Exploring Hyperspace Lanes tonight. That goes up next Wednesday. So we wanted to get that, situated and all of that. So, yeah, that's going to be tonight. Not that anyone else is going to hear it until Wednesday, but we're going to record it tonight. So we're going to move everything around to accommodate that. But I digress. So, in terms of what is going on with The Mandalorian, which is what we're here to talk about today, The Mandalorian Season 3, I'm sorry. It feels like Season 4 because we had half a season of The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, which is kind of integral to understanding where anyone is and what they're doing in this season, because we didn't really get any of that last time. When the Mandalorian leaves off, he is leaving Grogu with Lucas taking Grogu off to whatever planet they're going to do it, where they have Boston Dynamics robots building shit. So all of that kind of exists out in out in there, and then we sit and then we get the Book of Boba Fett, and in that we end up with this kind of halfway through, it just kind of becomes The Mandalorian, where it's okay, so he's back to doing bounty hunter things. Then he gets his, then he gets in his, he gets a new ship because his old ship got fucked up. It's an Naboo Starfighter. So he gets a new ship. He gets a new, he has his Darksaber, and he talks to the armorer, who tells him that because he took his helmet off willingly, he is no longer a Mandalorian, unless he can do the trials, which is impossible now because Mandalore has been destroyed, in so much as he has to go to the mines of Mandalore and go to the living waters or some bullshit like that. And then if he does that, he can become a Mandalorian again. So he's like, alright, I can do that. Because Mandalore has not actually been destroyed, it's still there, and we will go there and figure out what's going on. So meanwhile, the other thing is, it's like, then he goes back to whatever planet Luke is on with Baby Yoda and Ahsoka. Like, he goes to that planet and grabs and goes to give a Beskar armor to Baby Yoda, and then he leaves it with Luke. Luke gives this, 50-year-old, but what is essentially, in terms of cognitive ability, infant, the option. Do you want to go back to your adopted father, or stay here and be a Jedi? And of course the kid's like, I want to go back with my adopted father. So, they send him back to Tatooine, and Baby Yoda's there for the giant fight with the Rancor and all of that on Book of Boba Fett. So when we get to this show now, it's kind of reiterating a lot of that. Like, we have to reiterate the fact that he is I think that's the biggest problem with this episode, is that we have 8 episodes, and this episode does just retread a lot of what we knew going into it. Like, he needs to go back to Mandalore to do a trial so he can become a Mandalorian again, otherwise he's just a man with no nation. And he got to redeem himself. To that end, he goes back to Navarro and he meets with Greef Karga, and we have this great moment where it's like he's like, I thought you were trying to find this guy's home, yet you found this guy's home, yet this guy's still here. Meanwhile, the entire time, Baby Yoda's sitting in a chair and just spinning. And it's just a funny little beat where it's like they're having this conversation, and then behind them, you have like this office chair with like a swivel, and then you have this little baby, Yoda just sitting in it and just like going around it in circles, and it's like, all right, that's cute. I can appreciate this. I like. It's interesting, It's interesting to look at it this way and be like, so what's the it's this entire episode is to redefine the end goal. And I think it's interesting that there's that giant sequence with a bunch of Mandalorians fighting this giant thing. I think that's supposed to be it was supposed to be Din Djarin's ceremony to to become a Mandalorian. That was where he does that, and this giant thing attacks. It's such a great moment, and this whole thing is kind of really really cool. But wait, it's like to take off the mask. It's like, are there rules about when you can and can't take off the mask? Because look, I understand that you can't take the mask off ever, but to change the mask, because you didn't start with the Beskar helmet, so is he no longer a Mandalorian when he took off the mask the first time? Or when someone took the mask off of him in the first in the first episode, in the first season finale. There's a lot going on here that it's just kind of you can't take the mask off. It's except for these situations where the mask can come off, I guess. But I think that for a 35-minute episode to kind of lay out, and I think this is kind of the issue with so much of this show happening on Book of Boba Fett, is that it is ostensibly this idea that if you haven't seen Book of Boba Fett, you're going to be lost. And a lot of people didn't see it. So you basically have what amounts to an entire episode kind of relaying the groundwork for where the show is designed to go from here. Which is cumbersome. Oh my fucking god, you asshole. Going fucking 12 miles an hour on the expressway, getting in front of me in the middle lane. But yeah, it's I think that was kind of a misstep. But it's not this show's fault. It's you kind of got to bring the audience up to speed, because the last we saw these characters, they were in a very different situation from the current paradigm, and I think that that's the kind of thing that needs to be addressed. So it's not a great situation, but it does make it where people who watched both do have to get figure that get with sit through it. Where it's I know this. I know what he has to do because I watched the other show. It's like the solution to this is not to have had that happen in the other show and just have this in season B, 10 or 11 episodes. That would have been the solution. I think part of the problem was, too, if Book of Boba Fett was better, they wouldn't have had to do this. Because if Book of Boba Fett was better and more people watched it, and the show wasn't just complete shit the entire way through, then more people would have watched. You wouldn't have to sit here and do this retread. You can do it previously on. To kind of sum up what happened. And I feel like that's kind of where the show fell. And it's like, the thing is, too, it's like, the strongest episodes of the Book of Boba Fett were Mandalorian episodes. Like, Boba Fett's not in those 2 or 3 episodes at all. It's just Mando going around and getting his shit together. And I did really like the exchange with Karga and Mando, where he's like, look, settle down. Like, I can give you land here on Navarro. Like, there's plenty of places for you to stay here and just live out your life, be a man of peace. And that's not who Mando is. I mean, his name's Din Djarin, but I'm just gonna call him Mando. Because, like, that's how fucking Grief Karga calls him, like, Mando. So that just kind of stuck. It's just such a interesting paradigm, and it's like, I think part of what my problem is with the show is that he's going back to Tatooine at some point because Amy Sedaris is in the trailer. So he's going back to Tatooine at some point, which is just a colossal waste of my time, because it's like, look, for a movie to sit there and act like the really one of the first lines to introduce Tatooine in the movie in A New Hope, the first line we get to introduce Tatooine is, if there's a bright shining center to the universe, you're on the planet furthest from it. And it's like, it is Arrakis without the spice. We've talked about this before on Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. Joe's and I have discussed it. Tatooine is meant to be Arrakis. Like, that was what it was designed as. When Lucas was designing Tatooine, he did it as an homage to Dune. So when you see what we now know as the Great Dragon out in the desert, that's meant to be a sandworm skeleton. And it's like, oh, that's cool. It's an homage to Dune. That said, Tatooine is not the center of the universe, nor is the most important. Yet every fucking show we've had so far, except for Andor, has focused on fucking Tatooine at some point. Like, why the fuck did we spend so much time on Tatooine in both seasons of Mandalorian, and then again in and then again in the entire show of Book of Boba Fett, except for the Mandalorian episode that we go elsewhere. Then the entirety of not the entirety of, but a not insubstantial amount of Obi-Wan. It's all fucking Tatooine, and it's like, we're going back there, so that's the episode I'm looking forward to least, where it's like, we gotta go back to fucking Tatooine now, and I don't want to see this bullshit, I'm tired of it. But whatever. Nothing we can do about that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a strong start, even if I feel like it's kind of a waste of time to an extent. Like, there are worse ways they could have exposited this information, and they definitely did a good job of expositing it, so that way it doesn't feel like you're just having info dumped on you, which is kind of what's happening, where it's kind of like, oh, hey, by the way, so here's everything you need to know for this show to kind of understand what's happening this season. We're going to condense it. We're going to condense down 3 episodes into a little over a half hour. Have fun. So it's... And the thing is, too, is like, the other issue is it's not even just the issue of... What's I'm looking for here? Like, it's not even just the issue that, we, the audience, know this information already, but Din knows this information already. Because if we know, didn't know because it was exposited to him already. So for him to go back to the armorer and be like, "Hey, what's up?" It's like it's just an odd decision all around. Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting conundrum they found themselves in, and they handled it as well as they could. But we'll wrap up there for today. So like I said, tomorrow I'll be doing Operation Fortune. We will also be doing the new episode of The Bad Batch tomorrow morning. We'll be doing The Flash on Friday. And I feel like there's definitely more, but I'm forgetting. Last of Us will be continuing for the last 2 episodes in the next 2 weeks. And we'll be picking up after that with Gotham Knights, also on the CW. So, until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.